Hello everyone and welcome to In the Newsroom. I am Yoo Ji-hye. We have about a week to go until the long-anticipated Olympic Games in London, and Arirang News will be sure to bring you all the news, stories, and big moments as we continue to count down to the opening ceremony of the world's largest sporting event. I myself will be flying to London to cover all the Olympics-related stories, including the preparation and also the reactions from the fans and visitors from around the world, and also a plethora of cultural events aimed at promoting Korean culture there. Well, I'll be catching up with you in about a couple of weeks, and in the meantime, I'm sure our reporters here in the newsroom will be keeping you posted with their candid accounts of the stories they've been covering throughout the week. So with that being said, let's go over to our Hwang Sung-hee standing by for a quick rundown of the headlines this week. Sung-hee, hello.
For this week's headlines, I'll begin with news from North Korea. North Korea's young leader Kim Jong-un has been given a new military title. Now the Marshal of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Kim's upgrade from general makes him the highest-ranking person in North Korea's military. And staying in North Korea, 2 days after firing its military chief Lee Young-ho, North Korea names obscure Army General Han Da-eun as a powerful vice marshal in the first major shakeup of the reclusive nation's leadership since Kim Jong-un took control over the regime. And over at the National Assembly, lawmakers grilled government officials over a wide range of state affairs, including bribery charges, arrest warrants, illegal spying, and military agreements. Over at the National Assembly, lawmakers grilled government officials over a wide range of state affairs, including bribery charges, arrest warrants, illegal spying, and military agreements. The International Monetary Fund made a slight change to its outlook for the world economy this year, from 3.6% to 3.5%. The global body pinpoints to Korea as facing headwinds from the Eurozone debt crisis. Speaking before the Senate Banking Committee, U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke didn't say yes or no to the question of whether the Fed would pump stimulus money into the U.S. economy for a third time, but he did give a gloomy outlook for the U.S. economy. HSBC has officially acknowledged to having been involved in massive money laundering. This is after a U.S. Senate report showed HSBC's Mexican operations moved $7 billion into the bank's U.S. operations, which officials say can only have been raised through illegal drug trafficking. Well, this is all from me for this week, but I'll be back with more headlines next week.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Where's Ji-hye? She's gonna go to London to cover the London Olympics. When is she leaving exactly?
This Sunday. So she's going to be off for a week, and we're going to have another anchor for the prime time while she's busy covering major Korea's events there.
You know, it takes a lot of work just to prepare for an overseas assignment. A lot of arrangements to be made, so hopefully we'll see her soon. Anyway, this week was quite an interesting week for me at the Defense Ministry, because as you all know, earlier this week, the Vice Marshal Lee Young-ho, he got dismissed from his post, which was pretty rare.
North Korea's top military chief Lee Young-ho was one of the 7 high-ranking officials who accompanied Kim Jong-un as he walked alongside the hearse containing his father's body at his funeral last December. He was regularly spotted next to Kim Jong-un at state functions and has been widely regarded as a mentor to the young leader, helping the younger Kim take control of the military during the transition of power from father to son. But Pyongyang's Korea Central News Agency announced on Monday that Lee would be removed from all his posts, citing illness as a reason. There is no mention of who would succeed him. The short statement said the decision came from the Politburo of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party on Sunday. Analysts, however, find this explanation unconvincing. The Workers' Party has never released an official from duty for health reasons.
The day following Lee's dismissal, they also promoted Hyun Young-chul, like a man of mystery that even the South Korean officials don't really know much about him.
Yeah, I had to do some profiling of this new figure, Hyun Young-chul.
And he's very little known to the outside world, and actually he was an army general since 2010. He was promoted to 4-star general together with the current leader Kim Jong-un. And before then, since 2006, he was a field commander in charge of defending the borderline provinces of Pyongan and Jagang. And one interesting fact is that he is younger than the previously sacked Lee Young-ho. He's in her early 60s, so some experts speculate that a generational shift in the military is kind of likely. And also, I think Kim Jong-un is trying to replace the high-ranking officials with those who can control more easily, like Hyun Young-chul. So I think it shows some intention from Kim Jong-un.
North Korea is, the whole political circle is broken down to two institutions. There's a party and the military, right? So analysts are thinking that Kim Jong-un is trying to strengthen his authority in the military. And yesterday he was named the Marshal of North Korea.
This just in, North Korea has named Kim Jong-un as the head of the state through a special radio announcement just a few minutes ago. Previously, Kim was only Supreme Commander of Army.
We were all like just,
I know.
glued to the screen watching for any new developments.
There
and
was
we were
quite
thinking,
an episode at the Defense
what
Ministry.
is this important announced to be? What could it be? from
I
North
was
Korea?
having a quiet morning. Nothing really big, so I'm kind of like sitting there, right? And then I hear people like, oh, North Korea is going to make an important announcement at noon. And the last time they made an important announcement was when Kim Jong-il passed away. Yeah. So reporters were freaking out, and the cameramen were, setting up their cameras, and there's been a competition between the different stations, and they were trying to bring in their satellite cameras in. And one station started it, and everybody else started bringing in their satellite cameras, and we had like so many speculations. We either thought Kim Jong-un was assassinated, or Lee Young-ho was assassinated, and Hyun Young-chul was named the new leader of the state, or we thought there's going to be an economic reform, like North Korea is going to open up as a real open economy. And then when the news broke, everybody just let out this big sigh of disappointment.
Isn't it good that there's no sign of like wars or any
nothing
chaos,
too dramatic,
foreseen? But
yeah, and soon after the announcement, the Defense Ministry they just publicized some materials on how this follows the pattern of Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il. He was named Supreme Commander in 1991, and 1 year later he was named Marshal. So he's just following the regular pattern, so this is not something extremely out of the ordinary. But there's been developments in Syria as
that's
well,
right, Syria. I am kind of heartbroken to say this, but things are spinning out of control in Syria.
The streets of Damascus erupted into the heaviest fighting since the uprising against President Bashar al-Assad began 17 months ago. The Syrian army closed down major roads in the capital with tanks in an attempt to surround opposition fighters in southern parts of the city. The conflict, which the International Committee for the Red Cross now calls a civil war, has killed at least 17,000 people since last March. On Monday, UN envoy Kofi Annan met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow to urge Russia to stop propping up the Assad regime. However, there was no sign of a change in the Kremlin's position regarding Syria.
So these rebel groups are closing in on Damascus, and just, there are thousands of people leaving Syria, their country. They are fleeing to neighboring Turkey, and the UN Security Council was supposed to, vote on this resolution. Western countries are saying they need to slap more sanctions against Syria, and then extend their UN observers' mission in the country. But as we all know, two countries are objecting the sanctions-based resolution, which is China and Russia. Yeah. And I wrote about Russia like objecting to this resolution. It's a long-time ally of Syria, and it evidently supports President Assad, and it's not easy for them to drop support for President Assad because it seems like Russia is shipping weapons to the country and getting profits out of it.
Yeah,
So,
I think something has to happen. I think like a UN-led sanctions really bringing China and Russia back into the table and having a unified, solid, this force driven together, I think is necessary rather than this divided opinions between the 5 states.
that's right. And then they don't know where President Assad is currently. His whereabouts, are not known. So I think his regime, it's safe to say it's falling apart. We are seeing signs of his regime falling apart, but
We just don't want any more people dying.
exactly.
In the
But
country.
these weapons are in the hands of rebel groups, and it's not safe to leave Syria like that. Even if the regime does go away, I think somebody needs to be there and make sure, people turn in their weapons and then things are resolved
That's why
peacefully.
the United Nations.
Exactly,
exists.
but then they put off the voting process, so we don't know what's going to become of this process. Well, my next question is Syria going to participate in the London Olympics?
Well, if you're looking for some actual sanctions placed on Syria's sport front, that actually has taken place in London because there's a chief of Olympic committee in Syria, Muwafaq Juma, and he's been denied access to or entry to London because Britain has refused to issue him a visa to enter the country for any reason because he is a key official for President Bashar al-Assad. And so far we are not sure whether Syrian athletes are going to compete in the games because some athletes who are more of a rebel related people, they have said they would rather not compete wearing a flag that they're not proud of. But we have another interesting fact regarding the Olympics. There are going to be all women athletes, at least from one country.
All women athletes. Interesting.
Is it like a new rule?
No, but before, back in the days when the Olympic was just at the beginning, there were maybe only 20 to 40% of the women athletes, and now it's nearing 50%. And the IOC also expects in 20 to 30 years it's going to be half or more.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And London is prepping up. There are a lot of preparation works going on, right?
There all have been. And the most interesting thing is they're going to play the beach volleyball right in the Buckingham Palace in the heart of London.
How are they going to do that?
They've kind of set up a temporary venue for the event, and the Londoners and all the visitors will be seeing the game right in the palace.
Are they going to have a courtyard and fill it up with sand?
That's exactly what they did.
Really? What if it rains though?
And that's another major concern. People would just joke that the terrorism or the security reasons is not the biggest threat to London. It's the weather.
And I heard that it's the 3rd time that London is hosting this world event.
It's the first ever, the only city to ever host Olympic 3 times. And what is more meaningful and is special to Korea is that it was the first Olympics in 1948 that the Korean team actually competed and participated wearing a Korean flag at the games. And they also earned the first medal ever in weightlifting back in 1948. Kim Yeon-ji, who earned a bronze there. And he was recorded as the first Korean winning a medal at the Olympics because before we had Son Gi-jung, all the marathoners, but he was not able to wear a Korean flag at the games.
That's right.
Yeah, instead he had to wear Japanese flag.
Which kind of brings back to the point of Syria. If the rebel forces are not proud of wearing the flag, the Syrian flag, they don't want to participate. And when Korea was under Japanese colonialism, I'm pretty sure some athletes were really not proud of wearing some country's flag that they don't feel like it represents their own. Okay, I hope everybody wraps up their week, and we'll hopefully have more exciting stories for next week.
Yeah, happy stories, hopefully.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Bye. Bye.
Hello, I'm Han Da-eun. I'm the morning anchor for Arirang News. I'm glad I can open your day with your first look at the day's news. I go through all the news, and I have a small meeting with all the PDs, the morning PD, to pick the most important news items. We come up with a lineup, and then we assign B-rolls and packages to the reporters who are here. We don't have that many reporters in the morning, but we assign news to reporters, and I also write some. Come up with the headlines, and then we go in the studio. It feels great. It feels like all the hard work pays off because I get to deliver the viewers' first look of the news in sports, in markets, and weather, of course. So yeah, I like it, although it is a bit hard waking up at 2 a.m. So my 6 o'clock news is over, thank God. Phew. I wasn't particularly feeling well today, but it went well, quite well, I hope. It could get really hectic in the morning, so yeah, we always go, oh, it's over finally. Now I'm gonna walk out and grab something to eat breakfast, and then come back for 10 o'clock news. Okay, now we're gonna have another meeting to decide which news items to go with for 12 o'clock news, Newsline at noon. A lot more news will be included from the one we casted this morning. And of course, to decide the orders and to pick out the headlines, we pick out 3 headlines for each newscast. And picking out headlines, I think, is one of the most vital and important and difficult task. And for that, we have our senior advisors. Our senior advisor, very busy right now. Now I'm about to start my 10 o'clock news. I do this every day, but it's always a little nerve-wracking before I begin. So, Mark, are you ready for today's news?
Just about ready, yeah.
Hey guys, you know that there's a typhoon this afternoon?
Yes, and we also know that North Korea is making a special announcement in just a few minutes. My goal of working at Arirang as a news anchor is to provide accurate, credible news about Korea to the viewers outside of Korea, around the world. That's my goal, and I'm working really hard on it because I know I'm not perfect. Actually, I've only been anchoring for 4 months or so now. I started off as a reporter, so I'm more of a reporter than an anchor yet, but I will get there. My goal is to become, yes, a very credible, believable anchor. And I will see you in the newsroom.
All right, so we had a lot of events that popped up this week, and I just wanted to get a sense of, what what we covered and then also what we can go more in depth in for our News in Depth section for next week. You know, the presidential election, of course, is coming up, and we've had a lot of talk about that as the ruling party and the main opposition party, they're solidifying their primaries to see who is going to be the top contender there. But I thought we could take a little bit of a twist and analyze a bit the overseas voters, because registration is going to begin for Korean nationals living abroad. There are 2.23 million eligible voters, and apparently that could be a swing vote. But I thought it'd be interesting to really investigate like what the political stances of these Koreans overseas are, and like, you know, which way they're leaning or how they're following politics, or whether they're even involved, because I believe the voter participation rate was quite low in the first iteration of overseas voting.
I think that's one possibility. We probably have to do a lot of in-depth stories in the run-up to the presidential elections. So, and as nomination race is going to start, I think it is good time to do a news analysis, sort of news analysis type in-depth. And that's a good idea, but we have challenges because we don't have correspondents overseas, correspondents of our own overseas.
Right.
So we should have to find creative ways to do our job properly.
Exactly. So if there's people out there with Skype who want to, you know, come and be a correspondent, let us know. Write us a letter, I guess. One interesting thing I thought would be maybe like a foray into a different news analysis is the issue of unification. The unification jars, I don't know if a lot of our viewers know about this, but it's a donation campaign to fund eventual unification between North and South Korea, and the president this week made a donation into this jar, which looks like a traditional Korean pottery. I thought when I first heard this story, the pot would be a lot bigger, because there's estimates that it would cost anywhere from, I think, about $100 billion to $5 trillion to unify. But I thought it might be interesting to see, like, you know, where we are on the timeline. There's one research institute that says about 70% of Koreans believe eventually we will reunify, but they're not going to do anything active about it. But of course, there's a lot of issues with that.
Yes, I mean, I think we can use this as a pack to take a look at the unification issue. But as you said, it is a very sort of minor sort of political gesture the government is making. And maybe that's why the jar is that small.
Well, I heard there's like 5 or 6 of them, like located throughout Seoul. But yeah, I thought it would be.
And I think currently, I don't think many people are willing to pay the price for reunification. So a lot of Koreans think they want reunification, but not in their lifetime.
Right, there is that too.
Right, I think all these topics could be potential subjects for our in-depth stories.
Okay, well, I guess we gotta get working on those.
Okay.
Our reporters here in Korea. 아, 죄송합니다. 귀다. 막 울려. 이거 받아.
Please. I think it's urination. 할까요? 사람이 많다.